Okay, so welcome everyone. I am very, very, very pleased to welcome Nari Lee from the University of Montana to talk to us about a very special piece of research on gender barriers in fieldwork participation. So over to you.
Yeah, thanks for introduction, Lisa. And nice to meet you all virtually. And thanks for joining. And I'm Nari from South Korea. And I recently graduated my master's in University of Montana in environmental studies. Yeah, I survived. And now I'm in South Korea, and I'm really happy to share my story and research and my interest to everyone. Um, so I will talk around 30 minutes, and after that, we will share our thoughts, or you guys can ask any question to me. But in the middle of my presentation, I will use some kind of tools, which called Slido, that we can share our thoughts anonymously. So I will explain it later. Today I will present my research on gendered barriers in conservation work and how women navigate and resist these barriers in their everyday professional lives. My core question was, what can conservation institutions learn from women's everyday practices? So I would love to start with my motivation and my sort of positionality on this research. And this is the photo I took in Mongolia. Yeah, that was Eagle Festival. In Mongolia, there was an conversation with a female Mongolian researcher, and I was about to chop firewood, and Mongolian male researcher, sorry, said, "You shouldn't be doing this. This is men's work." And also, there was another anecdote that my female Mongolian colleague told me before our fieldwork season. I will focus on cleaning and cooking this season, and male colleagues will focus on the equipment and research. Yeah, I also felt I pretty felt sadness when I saw how some women internalized gender expectations themselves. Then in South Korea, my experience became more frustrating. Um, Before the talk, organizer told me that, "Oh, you are a woman. I thought you were a man." So after that, um, yeah, I'm sure you guys are familiar with this context, and I'm seeing some people are kind of nodding and like smiling. After that, I began to look similar patterns in a different context. So these experience led me to ask, who is recognized as real conservationist and who is granted authority and visibility. Um, so these questions shaped the beginning of this research. So based on this experience, I developed three research questions, and this research centers women's voices and treats them as active agent. Um, I will briefly introduce the two contexts in both countries. South Korea and Mongolia are very different on the surface. So the photo on the top is landscapes in South Korea. So South Korea is highly urbanized and densely populated country, and conservation often happens in human modified environments. But in Mongolia, there are vast grasslands and very low population density, and fieldwork involves long travel distances and nomadic legacies that shape labor expectations. But despite these differences, both contexts show similar dynamic. Gender shapes who leads conservation work and who does field work and who remains invisible. As you can see in the photos on the right, Korea has field sites which is really closer to cities, but Mongolia has remote rural field sites. But in both cases, oh, I'm sorry, yeah. But in both cases, the public face of field research is mostly male. In South Korea, feminist movements emerged as resistance to Confucian norms. Today, there's an active young feminist movement, but also ongoing gender conflict. But whereas in Mongolia, socialism expanded women's rights in the past, but after the transition in the 1990s to democracy, traditional gender roles became stronger again. So interestingly, in the left bottom part, Korea now ranks lower than Mongolia in some gender indices, although both still show strong inequality in practice. Um, conservation is often seen as a progressive and inclusive field. But however, in reality, progressive values do not always translate into daily practice. Um, many research shows that gender inclusion improves conservation outcomes and community resilience. But actually, equity is not only about outcome, it has also intrinsic value, as you guys are aware of this. But still, there is a gap. Maybe, I haven't come across any resources in both countries, but uh, unfortunately, there are not many research have been done about these topics in both countries. Especially women's institutional experiences are often overlooked. So this study really addresses that gap and creating space for women. Um, yeah, I will talk a little bit about methodology. I guess, some of you guys' background is in academia, I guess. So I talked with 28 women from two countries, and semi-structured interview. And actually, in Mongolia, more participants were in their 20s because the workforce is younger than South Korea. And I worked with female interpreter who does not work in conservation currently. And I also used photo boys. Are you guys familiar with photo boys methodology? Yeah. So photo boys methodology is basically kind of activity which encourage research participants to show their gendered experience by taking photos. So I will share like very fascinating photos with you guys after a few slides. And I used that methodology, and it worked really well. And yeah, it really helped visualizing my research. Um, yeah, so that really helped participants recognized, shared struggles, and sort of created a sense of connection. I figured it out six main patterns of gendered barriers. And I would love to talk about this first, that I am so, I'm so appreciative all of conservationists work in both countries. And I know like there's so much impactful works in conservation, but I would love to focus on patterns that are less discussed and especially at the institutional level. Yeah, so this is Slido QR link, QR code. So you can scan it or you can join Slido with this number code. And the idea of this slide is I would love to hear about your experience in your field, even though it's not in conservation or environmental field. I'm sure that, women's struggles or non-binaries folks or queer folks struggles in during the field work or any field can be really parallel. So this is anonymous kind of space. So feel free to share your thoughts. And also you can add your questions as well. Yeah, so the most common barrier was exclusion through informal male network. So this is the photo from my research participant. And my research participant is actually Korean, and she works at 100% Korean staffed organization. But it's interestingly, AI creates all diverse ethnicity, which is really, yeah, really interesting. And this shows uh, so-called in Korean smoking politics in South Korea that male conservationists network in their informal space and they made decisions themselves without really sharing this with their female colleagues. Um, and also interestingly, yeah, so this is really shocking quotes from my participants, and uh, three or four participants out of 20 research participants shared this really discouraging case from their organizations. So in Korea, informal decision spaces include drinking gathering and karaoke and sometimes entertainment districts. So for some context, in this is entertainment district in South Korea, and in one building you can find even brothel spaces or pubs and karaoke and motels. So this can be really vulnerable for women in conservation after their field work or their like regular work time. And also, like shockingly, organization or budgets are were often used for these activities. So this creates a strong post-work drinking culture, which is sometimes tied to evaluation and networking. So many participants felt described feeling sexualized in these environments. And in karaoke settings, Korean junior women are often expected to pour alcohol and serve senior men. Um, but in Mongolia, drinking culture is was also really central to social bonding, especially in field research setting. But women face additional stigma around drinking. So this creates different but equally strong male-dominated informal network in both countries. Yeah. And the second part was fieldwork exclusion and harassment. And some of you are familiar with this sort of context. And those are the photos from my participants again. And like for example, third photo, she did her amphibian research, but she didn't find any female side skier in during her field work. So yeah, I mean, it's really frustrating, and I was so impressed by my research participants that, they found this photo and um, they shared to me, and it's just so powerful to see these photos. And I found that fieldwork becomes another major site of exclusion. Fieldwork is often framed as masculine and physical and demanding. So this framing is used to justify excluding women. And there is also the idea that fieldwork is unsafe for women. And this is the actual quote from my research participant, which is really, sad. Um, but also like concerns are raised about mixed gender teams and shared accommodation. In Mongolia, fieldwork often happens in remote areas with limited infrastructure, and teams stay in shared yurts or tents with weak protection systems. But in Korea, as you see this photo, fieldwork is closer to cities, but drinking culture still extends into field setting. Um, and some participants described field environments are as toxic and really closed. For example, in marine research, my research participant felt marine field in general is really toxic. Maybe she kind of assumed that because marine field involve changing diving suit. So I found gendered barriers really varies by different research on, I mean, different species. Yeah, almost all participants experienced different types of different level of harassment, but institution often fails to protect them. In Korea, legal framework exists, but enforcement was really weak. And many organizations lack clear guidelines for gender-based harassment. But in Mongolia, gender policies are more recent, and many participants reported no training before field deployment. And also, it's really interestingly, I'm talking about the last part, the right bottom part. Um, Sometimes international funding requirements often drive gender policies more than internal commitment. So that's why my Mongolian participant, she said she never been asked to cook or do inconvenient tasks likely due to my work at an international organization. But after two slides, I will also share like sort of like paradox of in international conservation setting, which creates racial dynamic. Yeah. Um, I know it's really heavy. Yeah, I will have one or two more patterns to share, and I will really pivot for sharing some positive side in conservation field. So please hang in there. Yeah. Yeah, the next part was hierarchy and seniority and male authority-based exclusion, especially in Asian context. So in Korea, seniority systems are informal network such as school uh, or region ties, and strongly influence access to opportunity. And this network affects hiring and promotion and fieldwork participation. And also like generational difference also shape interpretations of gender issues. In Mongolia, socialist era bureaucracy still influences workplace hierarchy, and authority is highly respected, which can limit open discussion of gender inequality. Um, so personally, I kind of encountered more kind of pushback or like uncomfortable feeling on my research from Mongolian women than South Korean women. Uh, so it was like really interesting to see this dynamic. And but I guess I am not Mongolian, and I implemented this research as a outsider. So I am still really cautious to represent this dynamic on behalf of Mongolian women. But it was also like really interesting to see this such a different dynamics from women from two different countries. Yeah, um, gender roles shape daily tasks. I'm sure you guys are familiar with this all dynamics in field work or in office setting or any setting. And my research participant shared frustration on taking in charge of certain cooking roles or cleaning or maintenance. And one participant sh told me that all cooking and dishwashing in the field fell on me. And many Mongolian uh, female ecologists or biologists told me that they are like totally in charge of all the cooking for their entire research team throughout their research um, like duration. So like for 2 months or 3 months. Yeah, it was really frustrating to hear that. Um, um, like sometimes legitimacy in conservation is shaped by behavior and appearance and gender conformity. And also like women's career are also really constrained by childbirth and caregiving. In Korea, many women struggle to imagine long-term careers after motherhood, but in Mongolia, childbirth is still culturally expected despite weak institutional support. But there is also a bias that women are not primary breadwinner, which affects hiring and promotion. Yeah, it's almost last struggles, which I found throughout my research. The last theme was racialized and intragender dynamics. Um, and Asian women are often perceived as less technical in global setting, dominated by Western men. And some participants adopted more Western professional styles as strategy to look more cool or like to be cold. Um, but also there are interesting intragender dynamics. Limited opportunities sometimes create competition among women, and some participants reported hostility from other women and more male than female mentors. Yeah, so um, to recap all different ideas from South Korea and Mongolia. Korea struggles with intense work culture and drinking-based networking, and Mongolia faces remote field risks and weak institutional protection. But at the center, the root cause is the same. Yeah, structural patriarchy and institutional failure. Yeah, but despite these barriers, women actively respond and create strategies. They were not passive at all. They reshape conservation practice in many ways. They also emphasize the need for a safer, and more inclusive field for everyone. So when I talk with my research participant, which the second quotes, I was so excited to hear her thoughts on this topic. So as soon as I heard her phrasing, I thought that okay, I will use this research. I will use this quote for sure to show um, over themes of my research. Yeah, so it was like really uh, touching moment. I found women develop strategies to survive and navigate the system, which is alternative strategies. Um, they set boundaries and emphasize expertise. And some women sometimes avoid risky situations strategically. And also some women also protect other women in harmful environments. And some strategies are more structured. Women try to change institutions from within, and they advocate for representation in decision making. And some women create NGOs or alternative spaces, and they support junior women across organizations. And some adjust personal life strategies, such as continuing fieldwork after childbirth or considering reproductive planning. And some pursue international career opportunities, like me. So I felt really resonated when I heard experience from my research participants. Yeah, and also this is emerging findings, which I need to do more further research. And I found women's approach in conservation is quite different. Um, for example, um, women adapt relational and community-based leadership, uh, such as including local local residents in conservation project really actively, or sometimes they approached research differently to see whole ecosystem. And women adapted team coordination and care, and some integrate activism and education and conservation work. So overall, there is a shift toward more inclusive and relational approach. Yeah, I'd love to share some positive messages from field researcher and female conservationist. And interestingly, only Mongolian participants shared those photos, which shows strong bond with the land in Mongolia. Um, and many participants expressed pride in working in nature. And these moments show that supportive environments do exist, which gave me a hope. So based on these findings, want to propose for recommendations. First, mandatory fieldwork safety plan. Still in Korea, all the safety plans are only all about physical hazard. So I would love to suggest having more inclusive or um, holistic ideas on fieldwork safety plans. And the second one is scenario-based training and bystander intervention, which is not really common in South Korea. And the third one is having code of conduct and dual reporting system, um, like clear and enforceable codes of conduct. And the last one is, I think institution should have like official and professional mentorship program in any organization or institution, which can create some sense of connection or safe space for women in conservation. Yeah, so the key point is that gendered risk should not depend on individual coping strategies, and it requires institutional responsibility. Yeah, and I approached this research as the power of speaking. And actually, storytelling played an important role. And my participants shared that research interview was really good, like such a nice opportunity to reflect their work or their passion. And some women told me that they felt interview was like a counseling session, and they had a chance to reinterpret reinterpretate again on their struggles or their professional experience while talking through with me. And yeah, many women told me that they felt really validated, which was really motivating to me as well. Yeah, so I really, really want to express my deepest gratitude for 28 women from two different countries. And this research would not exist without them. And it was such a painful and rewarding journey. And I really hope to connect my finding to make real change in conservation in both countries. But you know, through this kind of outreach effort and or asking to institution directly. So yeah, it was really fun research experience. And yeah, if you want to connect with me, please scan this QR code and you can check my LinkedIn um, or Instagram, and you can check my email. So yeah, let's stay connected. Thanks for hearing my rambling. Yeah, my here it's like almost 11 p.m., so I think I'm like a little bit out of my space. So I hope my presentation all made sense. Thank you.